We're learning new details this morning about the domestic violence charges facing Arizona Cardinals running back Johnathan Dwyer. Police say Dwyer headbutted his wife in July after she refused to have sex with him.
What a guy.
The headbutt allegedly left his wife with a broken nose. Dwyer is also accused of punching her the following day and throwing a shoe at his 17-month-old son. The Cardinals head coach says domestic violence is a major problem across the country and that Dwyer will not be a part of the team unless he is exonerated.
Finally, people are becoming aware of it and doing something about it, and you know, it's uncalled for. I think anyone who touches a woman or a child, in my opinion, needs to go to jail for a long time. If this bad scar on the NFL, as you want to say right now, makes the rest of the world aware of what's going on, it's damn good.
Anna Isaacson, the new NFL Vice President of Social Responsibility, says domestic violence is the top issue right now for the league.
Oh, really?
She speaks about 6 times each day to Roger Goodell.
You know, Roland, I had said last week it would be interesting to see what happened to a player that wasn't a franchise player, like Greg Hardy in North Carolina. We found out if you are on the second team, you are immediately treated the way any of us outside of the NFL would be treated if we were accused of such charges.
Well, in fact, Chris Rainey was he's on the practice squad. When the media began to question the Arizona Cardinals head coach about him and his past domestic violence, he was cut within an hour. Now, they tried to explain he was cut down. The guy, he wasn't recently arrested. He was not, again, I'm not excusing anything that he did, but after being questioned, within 1 hour, he was cut from the practice squad. But, Joe, you know what's also very interesting? 20 minutes ago, I was watching ESPN. They were showing highlights of U.S. women's soccer team and lauding Hope Solo. She goes on trial in November for assaulting her sister, assaulting her nephew. But it's interesting, there was no mention about that. So if domestic violence is a national issue, should we not be questioning why Hope Solo is still playing on the women's soccer team and Nike dropped Adrian Peterson has said nothing about Hope Solo? So it's interesting how we have different views about domestic violence.
I'm a little skeptical about that. Look, that's one example of a woman beating another woman, with countless examples of men beating women.
No, Caddy.
Different now.
Of course.
1 second.
In this instance, Hope Solo should have had the same kind of retribution that the men are having. But let's not try and use that as an example to suggest that women are as guilty of domestic violence against their partners as men are, because it is overwhelmingly.
Caddy, I know that.
Let Roland talk. Roland?
I've been covering this issue. I've had to deal with domestic violence in my own family, taking in 2 young girls. So I am never silent on this. But I'm making the point that if we're saying domestic violence is a national issue, and it is, we must be vigilant across the board. The same thing with Alabama Judge Mark Fuller. What I'm saying is we've spent a lot of attention focused on the NFL, but when there are other cases, it's sort of a different standard. There should be one standard.
Let's talk, though, about an Alabama judge who has been accused but hasn't got the same publicity as an NFL football player.
Actually not
for
accused.
Domestic violence.
Not accused. He actually pled guilty to beating his wife in a Ritz-Carlton hotel in Atlanta. And what he got was 24 weeks of counseling. His record will then be expunged. And so you had a couple of papers in Alabama who were calling for his resignation. All of a sudden the story died down. And what bothered me was all these politicians who were blasting the NFL but ignoring the federal judge. This is a guy appointed by the president, approved by the Senate Judiciary Committee, voted on by the U.S. Senate, and you say nothing? Last week, I called every member of the Alabama congressional delegation. Nobody said a word except Congresswoman Terry Sewell. That's what led to Martha Roby coming out on Tuesday. That's what led to Shelby, then Sessions, now the governor. Now all of a sudden it's picked up. But politicians were silent on a federal judge, and I'm sorry. When it comes to power, he has way more power than any football player. And I'm saying you go after Ray Rice, you go after a federal judge.
Oh, my gosh.
You know what? It's a different time now.
You go after the federal judge first. You're exactly right, Roland. This is just, there are a few people that are as powerful as federal judges in America that are beyond the reach of the people directly. I'm sorry. I think the Judiciary Committee needs to have hearings.
Absolutely.
A guy that beats his wife is not fit to be federal judge.
Not fit to be anything.